Okay, so this is a nice round board, and it was actually half off, so even better. So it was like, what was it, $6.29? So that made it $3. So first thing I'm going to start doing is, I don't see a sign. I see a riser. It's a nice piece of wood. I believe that these are vinyl letters that they're not even painted on. So that's really easy to take off. But I have some holes to fill, not any big deal. And is this stapled on, hot glued on? I'm thinking it's stapled. Sometimes, you know, the hardest thing is to look past what the item is to what you think it could be. So like some would just say, well, it's a sign, so I have to keep it a sign. No, we don't. Nope, you can make it. You bought it, you can make it into whatever you want it to be now. And then we'll cut off what they use to hang it. And like I said, I think these are just vinyl letters. Yep, just vinyl letters, so we can scrape them. Actually easier than trying to sand them all off. If I'm going to make it a riser, I need some feet. At first I saw these and I'm like, oh, well, those would work because it's round. You don't need to have 4. 3 is fine. You can. I have 4 of these. I can use that. So I think these came off a piece of furniture. So pretty massive. These, way too small. once I actually grabbed them and measured them up to here. So we have, I don't know. I don't think they're too large for this piece by any means. No, not at all. I'm just trying to fill where that screw is. There we go. There's the screw. Okay, I have my 4. I think we're all like, if we measured it out, like, are you all like, is it all square? Probably should just give that a quick little check. I'm painting over it, so it doesn't really matter. Like, these lines were easy to match up. So I just need a little hole. I'm just matching up to what the screw is on here. It doesn't have to go all the way through. Do a little dry fit. See if I made my hole big enough or not. You don't want it so sloppy that you want it to go in tight so that it grabs. So my dry fit, they're all in. So now I can unscrew them. You want to make sure, that the screws all different sizes. So I actually had to get a couple different drill bits to get them to fit in them. You just never know. The legs were thrifted. I think people like take them off their couches and stuff. So look at those baggies at the thrift store. You never know what you're going to find, and they'll sell these for a few bucks. That's a nice piece of wood. I am going to sand a little bit. You know, you can, if you just paint over where you took the vinyl, you're going to see that they put the clear coat over the vinyl so you can feel the bumpiness. But first we need to fill in the holes where they used it as a hanger. So I'm just going to be using some bondo bondo filler, I guess. I usually get the one that's automotive. It multi-purpose, works for about everything I've ever used it on. Also good for gluing things together sometimes. As you see, it's just a putty, and then this little container is the hardener. Just a little dab would do ya, however much squirts out. And then you just mix it up and then put it in the holes. And I like it because between 5-10 minutes it's hardened, and I can already sand and work on my project without having to wait forever for something to dry. But I knew the holes were going to be too close to the feet, so I did not want to put the feet on yet. Stuff it in that hole. We gotta work on both sides because it's a hole went all the way it went all the way through. Need to lift that up for a second. There you go. Now we're just going to let it harden. The longer you let bondo sit, the harder it is to sand. So I'm going to go ahead and get it sanded. Now, when I was sanding, you notice I was going on these edges. So I wanted to take that mass-produced piece of wood look off of that. So where it was flat and had that hard edge, I'm rounding it down to make it look more like a salvaged piece. Because I like old stuff, and I like to paint stuff to make it look old. So now I'm just going to start putting some in Titebond quick and thick and get these glued on. Probably too much, but better to have too much than not enough. We don't want legs falling off. It'll squish out. You can wipe it off. Not a big deal. I want my legs to stay on. Okay, next one I'll do a little less. Just going to use some paint cans just as it's drying to make sure that it's got pressure on where the two pieces of wood need to adhere together. I like the Titebond quick and thick because like in about an hour it's dried and I can start painting the object. They're semi-dry, but I need to shellac it anyway or it's just going to absorb my paint in. So while they're finishing up drying, we can work on them. I wasn't worried about the legs. Whatever paint takes to them is what paint takes to them. This big guy, I think I'm going to do a green. I did something similar and it already sold. So, I mean, how do you not? Especially in green. We're all thinking that here in Michigan because it's so, winter just won't give up. So this is pantry door. So I'm going to use 4 scoops of pantry door. So I'm going to do a little bit lighter. Well, we'll see. And then one of in a pickle. This is a tablespoon. And then one of basil. And then let's see what we get. You can kind of mix it up dry and kind of see what you're going to get. So a light little sage. I think I want to brighten it just a hue, so I might do 2 of in a pickle. Yeah, there we go. So 4, 2, 1. 4, 1, and 2. I say to do equal parts. If you want it a little bit thicker, just do a little bit less water. Do 1 tablespoon less. And it does thicken up as it's sitting, so you just want to make sure you get everything incorporated, all that fresh powder in with the water. I'm going to try to paint it all at once, so I'm going to do the bottom first, get those legs. I know you could leave the legs, probably could have just left the legs white, but I'm just going to see what it does. Because actually, they're not sealed. I mean, they were just coated with white. You can actually, yeah. They're not well painted, let's put it that way. I'm going to try to flip it over. Easier said than done. I gotta get paint on myself. There you go. I got paint. Now I know the one that I did before that I got from a Goodwill also was a white one, white painted, and I put candle wax on it, but I ended up having to repaint it because the candle wax, hardly any of the paint stuck. So I'm like, I'm just going for it. I'm just going to mix up my paint thick to get that crackling, crazy, and aged look, and then we'll work from there. Yes, if you want paint not to stick, you can put like candle wax, beeswax. But since I had to repaint it, I don't want to. I want to learn from my error of ways, but it doesn't matter. Every item acts differently anyway, so it may not even have done that. So if you mix up less water, your paint is thicker, and then I just put it on heavy, and then wait until it does its magic. It's unpredictable, milk paint, but I don't know. That's the excitement, and then you just take what you're given. Lots of character going on here. Look at that. Lots of it. I think I'm just going to go ahead and sand it. So big crackles, little crackles, some bumpy from where I probably didn't get it mixed up well enough. But that's character. I like the character that it adds to the piece. Can't do everything with the power sander, so. Okay, that's what we got. Why it was, got some little big spots, got some crazing, and it's supposed to look old and salvage, and I think that it does. So now I'm going to go in with aging wax, which is brown, and then if it gets too dark, I've got my clear as my eraser on standby if I need it. That's going to pop all those imperfections that happen. To me, it's character. Some people like a crisp, clean paint job, no distressing, no bumps or bruises, no stories telling, just nice and clean. That's not me. That's what makes our little world go round. We're all different. Oh, I can already tell I like it. No clear needed. It's good. Whatever that was going on is what it went on, and I love it. The big bumps, I love it because it actually looks white for whatever reason, which is perfect because the legs, you know, are white. What we got to do underneath here too. As you saw, I cleaned off the paint on the bottom of the feet. It's a frame without glass, though it feels like plaster to me. But it's got pretty details that are kind of just hidden. And I have a print, a decoupage that I think I'd like to put behind it. So let me show you that so we can match up to what we want to paint the frame. So I actually have my white swan picture already sold that I did recently. And I didn't want to be too repetitive, but swans, pictures sell faster than the swans themselves. This black swan. And I know it cuts off a little bit, but I think it's so pretty in your face that it's okay that it cuts some of it off, as long as we're not cutting off his face, right? But white definitely is not the jam. I'm thinking black, And because that this is, as I said, it is a like a plaster. I mean, it's cold to the touch, so I think it's a plaster. Is my guess anyway. So they molded it plastered. So we have to set that off to the side, and we will go ahead and deal with this first. I probably don't want to do too much of taking those off because it being a plaster, it's not the funnest to fix. Though I will get some air dry clay. I can see like there were some other holes in it, so I'm going to fill those. Big a deal, and I'll probably put a piece of paper on the back anyway. But just in case, while I'm looking at them and they're there, this is just a bag of the Dawes air dry clay. Fill them in. It'll just make me feel better. I worry about some of the stupidest things sometimes. I know I do. It's all good. I think I'm just going to use the enamel and the flat black, and we'll see what it looks like after it's black. So I'm taking my mask off for a second. I don't know if you can tell like the plaster, how the plaster is taking, like a wood would have soaked that in completely differently. It's just really like absorbing the paint in, almost like an MDF board. Maybe I should have shellacked it, but we're just going for it. Now I ended up doing 2 coats because as it dried, it pulled away from like areas and showed the white. So I made sure that that got recovered. Now I'm going to go ahead and seal it in with Weather Defense Clear Coat. I'm going to cut a piece of poster board down to put Decoupage the Swan on. This is just a piece that I happen to have left over that actually fits. That's always good, right, y'all? Like, oh, yay. So I'm just going to make a little notch. Really little notch to know where I need to cut it. And then use a square just so I can keep my line straight. Probably not what Craig thought their square was going to be used for, but here we are. Okay, now I need to take my piece of paper. We need to figure out where, how much, what we see. Like I said, we're going to be cutting off, unfortunately, some of his tail. So here the decoupage paper onto the poster board. I'm just going to be using Fusion's Decoupage Transfer Gel. I think I have it where I want it to be. Well, you gotta love chip brushes, but they also chip brushes, right? Is that where they get their name? Like I'm going to chip. Okay, so I'm going to mist it down a little bit. This is just water in a spray bottle. Not one of those fast processes. Not sure why we need to be speedy. And then do the other side. it rips so easy at this stage that I like to wait for it to dry. Okay, to cut the edges off, I'm just going to take some sandpaper and then just go back and forth. So I think I want to do the crackle. I think that will be fun over the front of it, since there's no glass or anything to seal this in. But first I'm going to do the clear varnish and then put the crackle agents on top of it, because why not? The only worry is, should I have done it on wood and not poster board? But I don't know. We'll find out. So this is going to seal in the paper. I don't want to overwork it that I make it bleed or rip. The varnish is dry. Now I'm going on with crackle step 1, which kind of looks like the decoupage paper I used earlier. And then what we're doing is we're just going to put it on the whole thing. So it is thick like Elmer's glue. It's time for part 2. I don't know. Got some weirdness. Who knows sometimes. We're just going to work with it. So this is crackle. This part 2. And that'll have a chemical reaction and start tightening up that glue, the adhesive that's underneath it. I don't think I want my frame just to be straight painted black, so I'm going to go in with some Antiquing Wax by Waverly, just because this is a little bit more paint light than rubbing in. And so then I'm just going to rub it in on these, all over. See if I can get it into the crevices a little bit. It's not that material that you can sand. So we're trying to fake age here. We're faking age on the decoupage. Now, if you could only fake her age in real life. Anyway, okay, so let's wax on, and then, yeah, just keep it in the crevices a little bit. See a little bit of patina, shiny, painted new. Can you see all the little crackles? I'm kind of upset that did something weird, but what do you do? I mean, I didn't do anything to it. It just did it on its own, but there they are. Oh, I think it'll be so pretty. The Pentart antiquing paste. So hopefully that's going to get into the little crackles and really give it some age. So I'm just going to use the stenciling brush. Oh, yeah. This is going to look like an old-time canvas that has aged. Oh, that definitely looks like an old aged canvas. So I cut down a piece of wood to go behind it. I probably should have just put it on wood, but it's just so much easier because then you don't have to paint, because decoupage shows up so much better when it's on white. So we're just going to stuff that back here. Put my board over here. Oh, doesn't it look old? I'm gonna try my framing tool, but I don't know because of it being plaster. Yeah, it may not even go into it. Nope, it does not. That's what I was afraid of. That, like, okay, how do you get it to be back now? So I'm just going to use some of this tape. And then I'll cover it up with a piece of contractor's paper. Okay, just cut the paper down to size. I tried using my double stick glue and it was like, or my double stick tape, and it said no, it would not adhere to that. So we will just use hot glue. Just something to make the back look clean. I think we're on there. I'm just wetting the paper down just a little bit to give it a little age. Just gonna add a wire and then we will be good to go. Now this is a big guy, but we got a drawer. I mean, so much extra storage. I don't know, like, if it would have had like canisters in it. Just a homemade piece for what somebody needed it for. $8.29 at Goodwill. I love these kind of pieces. We got a whole bunch of little holes from the nails and then the knots. So I got some filling in to do. And we have a drawer that I can change out to do hardware on, but it's made well. People love a place to organize it and stuff their stuff. Mixing up some more bondo just to fill in all those little holes and the knots. Then you always think, oh, I'm just going to fill these in with paint. Yeah, that doesn't that's going to take a lot of paint, and then you end up getting a drip. We've all been there. We've all tried it. Maybe you all haven't, but I know. Early on I thought I could be cool like that and I have to fill a hole in. Bondo is dry, so now it's time to sand it. I'm probably going to change out the knob. Well, it's really loose anyway. I'm thinking when I got sanding it that maybe it had a flip top, like it was not necessarily a bread box, but there was two little holes at the top that I left for a shelf that I think maybe it was a cubby box. Because I had to do so many of the spots of bondo, I'm going to give it a coat of shellac. I don't want those to stick out when you paint over it. And it does take, bondo will, just like any kind of wood putty, it'll take the paint differently than the rest of the piece. And luckily, as you see, that it soaks right in, and then shellac does not take long to dry. So there's just something about like this type of craft, building of a piece that I can envision black. So that's what I'm going to go for. Fusion's Coal Black, and I paint and top coat all in one, even though I still primed with shellac. I just wanted to make sure those little pieces were good to go. So I didn't necessarily have to, but sometimes when you don't fill those in with covering them up, that little putty, you can see it, and I don't want you to see it. So yeah, I do think, because there was like a two-hole. I'm thinking maybe at some point of this life it had a little door that would open and you could have hid stuff in there. It's open now, so you can show your yummies And I didn't take that shelf off because I always thought I like littles. So anytime you can have a little shelf to put anything cute on, you just never know where somebody might use something at. Kind of like painting blind in the back here. Like, where am I covering anything up? Trying to get both sides. I know I did a whole video of black, but sometimes the pieces you pick up, it's just what you envision them being. And to me, black, green, white, very neutral. A lot of people fit them into their decor. I did 2 coats of paint to make sure everything was completely covered. You know, I had some angles to get it to. So I'm going to go ahead and distress the edges, just a look that I like. Take some Jolie's black wax, the finest grit steel wool, which is the 4 zeros. And I'm going to go ahead and wax that on. I want it to get into the light wood, and I'm hoping, because there's a little bit of texture brush strokes on the paint that I'm hoping that the steel wool, the more I tried to like get them out with the sander, the more it took the paint away. So this is another way of doing it and waxing it at the same time. So it still is, even though I wiped it on with that, I need to wipe off the excess with the rag. Especially black. You can't, like, where have I been? I don't know. I think I have to put like the same screw back in here. We'll see if I need a washer. But I found this porcelain one in my stash. Yeah, I'll need a washer. Okay, put a couple washers on there. There we go. I know, it probably doesn't look that exciting, but all I could picture is like a Bible being open, somebody's handmade piece. All I could picture is somebody's Bible being displayed on this to their favorite verse, you know. So I picked it up. So $4.29 at Goodwill. So, but it's very, I don't know if that's a stain or if maybe it's mass produced. I don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and sand it a little. I don't really know what's on it. And then I'm trying to decide I think once you lean it back, your Bible would stay open. Is what I'm thinking. I have a couple of these types of holders and that I display some of my Bibles and some of my favorite verses. Yeah. So I'm going with it was pine and that it is stained. I wasn't really sure, but that's okay. And then when I was sanding it, I rounded the edges a little bit just to give it, a little bit more of an aged character. Just wiping it down with some Dawn dish soap, some hot water. It's not a cheap pine. It's a hard board. Weird back here, so I might take that out and see what I can do to tighten it up a little bit. I know it doesn't affect too much of it, but it does move around. There, just you wouldn't think it was just cut into the wood differently. Now it doesn't move. I know I wanted to seal this in with shellac. Just now that I felt it, I know how raw the wood is, and I'm like, is it easier to just brush it on or paint it on? And I'm like, I got the can out. I'm honest. I'm just going to go ahead and brush it on. Back to hardware. Everything. Everybody's getting a coat. I think for this book stand, I'm going to do Fusion's milk paint, and this is the Hotel Robe. Now, even though all milk paints are not alike, this is just a powder paint, but I do notice it doesn't get as much chippiness, or not necessarily chippiness, as the big crackles that the Sweet Pickins does, but it still gives a wonderful character to the piece where I'm not looking like I want a whole bunch of crackle and chippiness off. I want it to look like it's an old paint. So, and it definitely has that character, and I like I'm assuming that this is a pretty bright white with that Hotel Robe. If we could only get our whites as white as they do at a hotel. But I do notice that I should not have added that much water, that I have to add a lot more powder ratio. Even though it says a 1-to-1, because I like to work with my paint thick, I should have just added one water. 2 scoops and 1 water would have been plenty. Just from using it, you know, we all figure out each paint, each thing we're working with. Either it works for you or it doesn't. And it's fun to try new things, I think. Yeah, I notice it, like, I feel like it's a little bit more grainy. I guess that's a good word for it, grainy. But that is a character. And I'm hoping that the 1 coat of shellac is enough that weird red stain doesn't bleed through the white. I'm going to attempt to stand it up after I get this part painted. Okay. There we go. Not bad, not bad. So if you look, there's crackling there. Yes, it does leave a lot of the texture, but I don't mind the texture. This is the thing I was worried about, that stain coming through, but I think it'll be okay once I get it all finished. I like the dark wood coming through, the age that it gives it. I'm going to seal it in with clear wax, and then maybe a little bit of the antiquing wax. I don't want to turn it brown by putting I don't want to turn it brown by putting any, like, the aging or antiquing on it right away. Let's get it sealed in first with some clear wax. I don't want to clear coat it because I don't want to wet it that much that I think it'll bring some of that stain that wanted to soak through the paint through. But I think this will seal it in enough and not have to worry about that. Now I'm just going to do just a little, a little bit of aging wax just to get in the little crevices there. Look at, even though I just said a little, it still was like, no, look at how much I'm going to. That's okay. While it's still wet, you can always use clear as an eraser. There, it's idea of we're apparently two different things here. I just wanted it to go into the crevices. There you go. It just, the dark wax just brings out the crackles a little bit more.